The Galactic Empire's dominance. The vast expanse of the cosmos had long been dominated by a single overwhelming force, the Galactic Empire. For millennia, they had spread across the stars, subjugating worlds and assimilating lesser species into their grand design. Their technological prowess was unmatched, their military might unquestionable, and their arrogance limitless. At the heart of the Empire's power was the Celestial Throne, a massive space station that served as both the seat of government and a symbol of their indomitable will. From this gleaming citadel, Emperor Zaxthor, the 87th of his line, gazed upon the holographic display of his realm. Countless stars twinkled before him, each representing a conquered world or a vassal state. "Your Eminence," a voice called out, interrupting the Emperor's contemplation. It was High Admiral Kriva, her scaled skin shimmering in the low light of the throne room. "We have detected a new signal from the outer reaches of the Orion Arm." Emperor Zaxthor's tendrils twitched with mild interest. Another primitive species fumbling with radio waves, no doubt. "What makes this one worthy of my attention, Admiral?" Kriva's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of hesitation among her kind. "The signal. It's different, Your Eminence. It's structured, complex. It bears the hallmarks of a civilization on the brink of interstellar travel." The Emperor's interest grew. New civilizations were rare these days, most having long since been absorbed into the Empire or eradicated for their resistance. "Show me," he commanded. The holographic display shifted, zooming in on a small blue-green planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Data streams flickered around the image, detailing atmospheric composition, population estimates, and technological assessments. "They call their world Earth," Kriva explained, "and themselves humans. Our preliminary scans indicate they've achieved spaceflight within their own system, but have yet to venture beyond." Emperor Zaxthor studied the image, his ancient eyes narrowing. "They seem fragile, soft. How long before they achieve faster-than-light travel?" "At their current rate of technological progression, perhaps a century, Your Eminence." A low, rumbling laugh echoed through the throne room. "A century. How quaint. Very well, Admiral. Send a diplomatic envoy. Let us welcome these humans to the galactic stage. It's been too long since we've had new subjects to enlighten." The days that followed saw the arrival of the Imperial envoy in Earth's orbit. The massive ship, dwarfing anything humanity had ever constructed, cast a shadow over the planet that sent shockwaves through every nation and society. In New York City, the United Nations convened an emergency session. Representatives from every country gathered, their faces a mix of fear, excitement, and determination. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's foremost xenolinguist, stood before the assembly, her hands trembling slightly as she delivered her report. "The aliens call themselves the Galactic Empire," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "They claim dominion over most of the known galaxy and have expressed their benevolent intention to guide our species into the interstellar community." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Chinese representative stood, his face a mask of skepticism. "And what do they ask in return for this benevolence?" Dr. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Complete submission to imperial rule, the gradual integration of our governments, economies, and militaries into their existing structure, and the right to establish colonies on Earth for their own citizens." The chamber erupted in outrage. Shouts of "never" and "we'll fight" echoed off the walls. The Secretary General banged his gavel, calling for order. "We must approach this rationally," he pleaded. "We are facing a civilization capable of crossing the stars. Their technology, their weapons, we cannot hope to stand against them if they decide to take by force what we won't give willingly." In the back of the room, General Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. He'd seen the scans of the Imperial ship, knew the futility of resistance with Earth's current level of technology. But as he watched the fear and resignation spread across the faces of Earth's leaders, a fire burned in his eyes. "We may not be able to fight them now," he muttered to himself. "But that doesn't mean we roll over and die." The days that followed saw the arrival of the Imperial Envoy in Earth's orbit. The massive ship, dwarfing anything humanity had ever constructed, cast a shadow over the planet that sent shockwaves through every nation and society. In New York City, the United Nations convened an emergency session. Representatives from every country gathered, their faces a mix of fear, excitement, and determination. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's foremost xenolinguist, stood before the assembly, her hands trembling slightly as she delivered her report. "The aliens call themselves the Galactic Empire," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "They claim dominion over most of the known galaxy and have expressed their benevolent intention to guide our species into the interstellar community." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Chinese representative stood, his face a mask of skepticism. "And what do they ask in return for this benevolence?" Dr. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Complete submission to imperial rule. The gradual integration of our governments, economies, and militaries into their existing structure, and the right to establish colonies on Earth for their own citizens." The chamber erupted in outrage. Shouts of "never" and "will fight" echoed off the walls. The Secretary General banged his gavel, calling for order. "We must approach this rationally," he pleaded. "We are facing a civilization capable of crossing the stars. Their technology, their weapons, we cannot hope to stand against them if they decide to take by force what we won't give willingly." In the back of the room, General Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. He'd seen the scans of the Imperial ship, knew the futility of resistance with Earth's current level of technology. But as he watched the fear and resignation spread across the faces of Earth's leaders, a fire burned in his eyes. "We may not be able to fight them now," he muttered to himself, "but that doesn't mean we roll over and die." As the debate raged on in the UN, similar scenes played out across the globe. In laboratories and universities, scientists pored over the data gleaned from the Imperial ship, desperately seeking any advantage. In military bases, soldiers trained harder than ever, preparing for a war they knew they couldn't win but refusing to go down without a fight. And in a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a team of the world's brightest minds gathered in secret. Dr. Samantha Wells, a brilliant physicist with wild red hair and a penchant for the impossible, stood before a whiteboard covered in complex equations. "They think they have us beat," she said to her colleagues, a fierce grin on her face. "They think we're primitives, barely out of the Stone Age. But they don't know humans. They don't know what we're capable of when our backs are against the wall." She tapped the board, drawing attention to a particular set of calculations. "Gentlemen, ladies, we're about to change the game. The Empire thinks FTL travel is a century away. I say we do it in 5 years. And not just FTL. We're going to crack instantaneous transportation." The room fell silent, the implications sinking in. Then, slowly, smiles began to spread. Hope, that most human of emotions, began to take root. As the Imperial envoy waited in orbit, confident in their superiority and certain of Earth's eventual capitulation, they remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath them. Humanity, laughed at and dismissed by the greatest power in the galaxy, was about to remind the cosmos of an old Earth saying, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." The stage was set. The Galactic Empire had made their move, confident in their victory. But Earth, tiny, insignificant Earth, was about to change the rules of the game. The next 5 years would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of the entire galaxy. And deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, in a lab humming with possibility, Dr. Samantha Wells and her team began their work, fueled by determination, desperation, and the unshakable belief that humanity's greatest hour was yet to come. Earth's secret project. 5 years passed in a blur of feverish activity. On the surface, Earth presented a facade of compliance to the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. Imperial observers wandered the planet, marveling at the quaint customs of these primitive humans, while condescendingly offering tidbits of advanced knowledge. Little did they know that beneath this veneer of submission, a revolution was brewing. In the cavernous underground facility dubbed Project Prometheus, Dr. Samantha Wells stood before a gleaming apparatus that hummed with barely contained energy. Her wild red hair, now streaked with premature gray, was tied back in a messy ponytail. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of countless sleepless nights, but the fire of determination still burned bright. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed her team, her voice hoarse from too much coffee and too little rest, "I believe we've done it." The room, filled with the brightest minds Earth had to offer, held its collective breath. They had poured their hearts and souls into this project, working tirelessly under the constant threat of discovery. The stakes couldn't be higher. The very future of humanity rested on their success. Dr. Chen Lei, a quantum physicist from Beijing, stepped forward. "The simulations are promising, Sam, but we've never attempted a full-scale test. The energy requirements alone are staggering." Samantha nodded, understanding his concerns. "I know, Chen, but we're out of time. The Empire grows more impatient by the day. We need to prove this works, and we need to do it now." She turned to face the rest of the team. "What we've created here isn't just faster than light travel. It's instantaneous transportation across vast distances. We're not just bending space-time. We're punching right through it." A murmur of excitement rippled through the gathered scientists. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a petite woman with a brilliant mind for engineering, raised her hand. "But Sam, the power source. We've never tested the fusion reactor at full capacity. If it destabilizes during the jump, then we all die, and the Empire never knows how close we came." Samantha finished grimly. "But if we succeed, we give humanity a fighting chance." The room fell silent, each person wrestling with the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Then, slowly, nods of agreement began to spread. They had come too far to turn back now. As the team bustled into action, preparing for the first full-scale test, Samantha's mind wandered to the events that had led them to this moment. The years of secret negotiations with world governments, convincing them to pool resources and talent into this audacious project. The near misses with Imperial observers, the carefully crafted misinformation campaigns to keep their true progress hidden. She thought of her family, living on the surface, unaware of the incredible work happening beneath their feet. Of the billions of people going about their daily lives, adapting to the new reality of being a protectorate of the Galactic Empire, never suspecting that their fate was about to change dramatically. A klaxon sounded, snapping Samantha back to the present. 2 minutes to test initiation, a computerized voice announced. She took her place at the control console, her fingers dancing over holographic displays as she input the final coordinates. The target was simple, a probe on the far side of the moon. If they could successfully teleport it into the lab, they would have proof of concept. "Fusion reactor at 95% capacity," Dr. Tanaka reported, her voice tense. "Quantum field stabilizers online," added Dr. Lei. Samantha took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the final activation switch. "This is it, everyone. No matter what happens, I want you all to know, it's been an honor." The room held its breath as she pressed the button. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a sound like reality itself being torn asunder, a blinding light filled the chamber. Scientists shielded their eyes. Computer systems blared warnings, and the very air crackled with unimaginable energy. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. Slowly, cautiously, Samantha lowered her arms and opened her eyes. There, in the center of the teleportation pad, sat the probe. Dusty, battered, but unmistakably the same one they had left on the lunar surface. A beat of silence, then the room erupted in cheers and tears of joy. They had done it. They had changed the course of human history. As the celebration raged around her, Samantha's mind was already racing ahead. They had proven it was possible, but now came the hard part, scaling up the technology, building a fleet in secret, and preparing for the day they would reveal their achievement to the galaxy. Thousands of miles above, on the Imperial observation ship in orbit, an ensign frowned at his sensor readings. "Sir, I'm detecting an unusual energy spike from the planet's surface." The captain, a grizzled veteran of countless planetary subjugations, waved a dismissive tentacle. Probably just another of their quaint attempts at improving their pitiful technology. Nothing to concern ourselves with. The ensign nodded, erasing the anomaly from the logs. After all, what could these primitive humans possibly achieve that would be of concern to the mighty Galactic Empire? Back in the underground lab, as the initial euphoria began to subside, the team gathered around Samantha for their next steps. The project was no longer theoretical. It was time to put their plans into action. "We've proven the concept," Samantha began, her voice filled with renewed energy. "Now we need to scale up. We're going to build a fleet unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen." Dr. Tanaka pulled up holographic schematics. "I've been working on designs for teleportation-capable ships. By integrating the jump drives directly into the hull, we can create vessels that are virtually untraceable when they teleport. And I've made breakthroughs in miniaturizing the power source," added Dr. Lay. "We can build everything from fighter-sized craft to capital ships." Samantha nodded, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "Excellent, but we can't do this alone. It's time to bring in the rest of the world." Over the next months, in meetings held in the deepest secrecy, world leaders were briefed on Project Prometheus. Initial skepticism quickly gave way to hope and determination as the potential of the technology became clear. Resources were diverted, entire industries retooled in secret. Under the very noses of their imperial observers, humanity began to prepare for war. In hidden shipyards beneath the ocean floors, in caverns hollowed out of mountains, and in the vast emptiness of Earth's solar system, a fleet took shape. Ships equipped with technology that would rewrite the rules of space warfare, crewed by men and women trained in absolute secrecy. All the while, on the surface, life continued as normal. Humans played their part, acting the subservient species, all while knowing that soon, very soon, they would show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. As the final ships were completed and the last crews trained, a message was sent out to every corner of the globe. It was time. The day of revelation was at hand. In the imperial palace on the celestial throne, Emperor Zaxthor received a curious request. The leaders of Earth were asking for an audience, claiming they had an announcement of galactic importance to make. The Emperor laughed, amused by the audacity of these primitives. "Very well," he declared to his court. "Let us see what these humans think is so important. It should provide some entertainment at least." Little did he know that this announcement would shake the foundations of his empire and change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. As the appointed day drew near, a palpable tension filled the air on Earth. In homes and offices, in schools and factories, people went about their daily lives with nervous energy. They knew something momentous was about to happen, even if most didn't know the exact details. And in a secret hangar deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Samantha Wells stood before the flagship of humanity's new fleet, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The moment they had worked towards for 5 long years was finally here. "Are you ready?" asked General Chen, now the commander of Earth's defense forces, as he joined her. Samantha took a deep breath, staring up at the sleek vessel that represented humanity's future. "Ready as we'll ever be. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are made of." As they boarded the ship, joined by a crew of the best and brightest Earth had to offer, Samantha couldn't help but smile. The Galactic Empire had laughed at Earth, dismissed humans as primitive and weak. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Empire's ultimatum. The grand reception hall of the celestial throne buzzed with anticipation. Dignitaries from across the galactic. The grand reception hall of the celestial throne buzzed with anticipation. Dignitaries from across the galactic empire had gathered, their varied forms a testament to the diversity of life that existed under imperial rule. At the center of it all sat Emperor Zaxthor, his massive form draped in shimmering robes that seemed to capture the light of distant stars. "Bring forth the human delegation," the Emperor's voice boomed, a hint of amusement coloring his tone. The massive doors at the far end of the hall swung open, and a small group of humans entered. They walked with purpose, their heads held high, showing none of the awe or intimidation that most species displayed when first confronting the full might of the Empire. At the head of the delegation was Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the xenolinguist who had first deciphered the Empire's language. Beside her strode General Marcus Chen, his military bearing unmistakable even to alien eyes, and bringing up the rear, trying to contain her excitement and nerves, was Dr. Samantha Wells, her wild red hair barely contained in a formal updo. As they approached the throne, the assembled aliens whispered among themselves. Many had never seen a human in person before, and they found the species unremarkable. Soft, fragile-looking creatures with no apparent natural defenses. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," Emperor Zaxthor's voice dripped with condescension. "We understand you have an announcement of great importance to make. Please, enlighten us." Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering. "Esteemed Emperor, noble representatives of the Galactic Empire, we come before you today with a message from the United Governments of Earth." She paused, her eyes scanning the room. "For 5 years, we have existed under the protection of the Empire. We have observed your ways, learned from your technology, and come to understand our place in the greater galactic community." The Emperor leaned forward, his interest piqued by the human's tone. This wasn't the groveling he had expected. "And what, pray tell, have you concluded from these observations?" he asked, a dangerous edge to his voice. Dr. Rodriguez's spine straightened. "We have concluded that humanity will not submit to imperial rule. We respectfully request that all imperial forces withdraw from Earth and its solar system immediately." The hall erupted in laughter. Aliens of all species howled and chittered, amused by the audacity of these primitive beings. Even Emperor Zaxthor allowed himself a chuckle. "My dear Dr. Rodriguez," he said, his voice laden with false pity, "surely you understand the position you're in. Your species has barely mastered spaceflight within your own system. You have no fleet, no defenses that could hope to stand against even the smallest imperial battle group." He leaned back in his throne, his amusement fading to be replaced by a cold, hard stare. "We have been patient with your species, allowing you time to understand the benefits of imperial rule. But our patience has limits." With a gesture, he activated a holographic display that filled the center of the hall. It showed the Earth, peaceful and blue, surrounded by a massive fleet of imperial warships. "This is not a request, humans. It is an ultimatum. Submit fully to imperial rule within 1 standard galactic week, or face annihilation. Your choice." The hall fell silent, all eyes on the human delegation. They expected to see fear, desperation, perhaps even tears. Instead, they saw something that made more than a few aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. They saw smiles. General Chen stepped forward, his eyes locked on the Emperor. "With all due respect, Your Eminence, I believe you'll find that the situation has changed." Before the Emperor could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the celestial throne. The holographic display flickered, showing imperial ships vanishing from around Earth, only to reappear seconds later in disarray, as if they had been scattered by some unseen force. "What is the meaning of this?" Emperor Zaxthor roared, rising from his throne. It was Dr. Samantha Wells who answered, her eyes shining with triumph. "That, Your Eminence, is humanity's response to your ultimatum." As the assembled dignitaries watched in shock, a new fleet appeared in the display. Ships of a design never before seen in the galaxy, sleek and powerful, materialized around the Imperial forces. In seconds, the situation had reversed, with Earth now defended by a formidable armada. "Impossible," whispered High Admiral Kriva, her four eyes wide with disbelief. "No species has ever developed teleportation technology on this scale." "No species you've encountered before," corrected Dr. Wells. "But then, you've never encountered humans before, have you?" Emperor Zaxthor's face contorted with rage. You dare to challenge the might of the Galactic Empire." General Chen's voice was calm, but filled with steel. We dare because for thousands of years, your empire has subjugated and exploited countless species across the galaxy. We dare because if we don't stand up to you, who will?" The general's eyes swept the room, meeting the gazes of the assembled aliens. "To all those who have suffered under Imperial rule, who have watched their cultures be erased and their worlds stripped of resources, we say this: look to Earth. Look to humanity. Today, we show the galaxy that the Empire is not invincible." Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward once more. "This is our final offer, Emperor Zaxthor. Withdraw your forces. Recognize Earth and its solar system as sovereign territory. End your campaigns of conquest and subjugation. Do this, and we can forge a new era of peaceful coexistence and mutual prosperity." The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. "And if we refuse?" It was Dr. Wells who answered, her voice soft, but carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "Then we will do what humans have always done when faced with tyranny. We will fight, and we will win." For a long moment, silence reigned in the hall. The representatives of 1,000 worlds looked back and forth between the human delegation and their emperor, wondering if they were witnessing the beginning of a new galactic order. Finally, Emperor Zaxthor spoke, his voice cold with rage. "You have made your choice, humans. Now face the consequences. Guards, seize them." As Imperial guards moved to surround the human delegation, Dr. Wells smiled and tapped a device on her wrist. In a flash of light, the humans vanished, teleporting away before the stunned eyes of the assembled aliens. Alarms continued to blare throughout the celestial throne as reports flooded in from across the Empire. The humans hadn't just revealed their fleet at Earth. Teleporting ships were appearing in systems throughout Imperial space, striking at key military installations and vanishing before they could be engaged. In the chaos of the throne room, as the Emperor bellowed orders and dignitaries scrambled for answers, a single thought echoed through the minds of many. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity's stunning reveal. The bridge of the EFS Prometheus, Earth's flagship, was a hive of activity. Dr. Samantha Wells, General Marcus Chen, and Dr. Elena Rodriguez materialized in a flash of blue light, immediately moving to their stations. "Status report," barked General Chen, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the unfolding battle around Earth. A young lieutenant responded crisply. "Sir, Operation Cosmic Shock is proceeding as planned. Our forces have successfully neutralized 60% of the Imperial fleet in Earth's orbit. Minimal casualties on our side." Dr. Wells couldn't help but smile as she watched the Imperial ships struggling to respond to the human assault. The teleportation technology she and her team had developed was proving even more effective in combat than they had dared hope. "Dr. Rodriguez," Chen called out, "what's the word from our diplomatic channels?" The xenolinguist's fingers flew over her console as she analyzed incoming transmissions. "It's chaos out there, General. The Empire's communication networks are flooded. We're picking up distress calls from at least a dozen systems where our strike teams have hit key military installations." Chen nodded grimly. "Good. Keep monitoring. We need to know the moment the Emperor is ready to talk." As the battle raged on, the true genius of humanity's strategy became apparent. The teleporting fleet didn't just level the playing field. It completely rewrote the rules of space combat. Imperial ships, accustomed to the predictable patterns of conventional space warfare, found themselves completely outmaneuvered. Human vessels would appear out of nowhere, unleash devastating attacks, and vanish before the enemy could respond. The Empire's superior numbers and firepower meant little when they couldn't bring them to bear effectively. On planets across the galaxy, long subjugated species watched in awe as Imperial garrisons and orbital defenses were systematically dismantled. Hope, long suppressed under the weight of Imperial rule, began to flicker to life. Back on the celestial throne, Emperor Zaxthor raged as reports of defeats poured in from all corners of his realm. How? He roared at his cowering advisors. How can these primitives possess such power? High Admiral Kriva, her scales pale with stress, attempted to explain. Your Eminence, it appears the humans have not only mastered teleportation technology, but have weaponized it on a scale we thought impossible. Our fleets are designed to fight in three-dimensional space. The humans, they're fighting in 4 dimensions. Then adapt, the Emperor bellowed. We are the Galactic Empire. We have ruled the stars for millennia. We will not be undone by a species that was hurling spears at each other mere centuries ago. But adaptation, the Empire was learning, was something humans excelled at. As the Imperial forces began to adjust their tactics, the human fleet evolved its strategies in real time. Dr. Wells and her team had anticipated this, building adaptive algorithms into the ship's AI systems. Each engagement provided new data, allowing the fleet to become more efficient, more deadly. Hours into the conflict, a new problem arose. General, called out Dr. Wells, her face grim, we're detecting a massive energy buildup at key Imperial strongholds. I think they're preparing to use planet-killer weapons. The bridge fell silent. The Empire's planet killers were the stuff of nightmares, capable of rendering entire worlds uninhabitable in minutes. Their use had been rare, employed only as a last resort against the most stubborn resistance. General Chen's jaw tightened. They're getting desperate. Transmit the coordinates to all available ships. We need to take out those weapons before they can fire. What followed was a series of strikes that would be studied in military academies for generations to come. Human ships, appearing with split-second precision, launched surgical attacks on the Imperial superweapons. The coordination was flawless, the execution perfect. One by one, the planet killers went dark, their threat neutralized before they could claim a single life. As news of this latest victory spread, the mood across the galaxy shifted. Species that had been cowed into submission for generations began to rise up. Imperial garrisons found themselves besieged not just by human forces, but by the very populations they had oppressed. The Galactic Empire, which had stood unchallenged for thousands of years, was facing a revolution on a scale it had never imagined possible. On the Prometheus, Dr. Rodriguez's console lit up with an incoming transmission. Her eyes widened as she decoded the message. General, Dr. Wells, it's the Emperor. He's requesting the ceasefire. He wants to negotiate. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced by a gesture from General Chen. It's not over yet, he cautioned. The Empire won't give up its power easily. We need to be prepared for anything. Dr. Wells nodded in agreement. I'll have our engineers start working on countermeasures for any last-ditch technologies the Empire might try to deploy. We've come too far to let our guard down now. As the human leadership prepared for the upcoming negotiations, reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy. The Empire was in disarray, its once invincible military humbled, its authority crumbling. And at the center of it all was Earth, a planet that had gone from obscure backwater to the focal point of galactic revolution in a matter of hours. The next few days would determine the fate of countless worlds and trillions of sentient beings. But one thing was already clear. The age of imperial dominance was over. A new era was dawning, and humanity would be at its forefront. A new era for humanity. The grand conference room aboard the celestial throne, once a symbol of imperial power, now served as neutral ground for negotiations that would reshape the galaxy. On one side sat Emperor Zaxthor, his once imposing frame seeming somehow diminished, flanked by his most trusted advisors. On the other, the human delegation, led by General Chen, Dr. Wells, and Dr. Rodriguez, stood tall and confident. "Let us be clear," General Chen began, his voice firm and unwavering. "The era of imperial dominance is over. We are not here to discuss the terms of Earth's surrender, but the terms of a new galactic order." Emperor Zaxthor's tendrils twitched with barely suppressed rage. "You presume much, human. One battle does not decide the fate of an empire that has stood for millennia." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward, her eyes locked on the Emperor. "With respect, Your Eminence, it wasn't just one battle. In the past week, we've systematically dismantled your military infrastructure across 1,000 worlds. The peoples you've subjugated for generations are rising up. Your empire is crumbling as we speak." As if to underscore her point, a holographic display flickered to life, showing real-time updates from across the galaxy. Imperial fleets in disarray, liberation movements gaining ground on dozens of planets, long subjugated species declaring their independence. High Admiral Kriva, her scales a pale shade of defeat, spoke up. "The humans speak the truth, Emperor. Our forces are scattered, our supply lines disrupted. Even if we could regroup, their teleportation technology gives them an insurmountable tactical advantage." For a long moment, silence reigned in the conference room. Then, with a deflating sigh, Emperor Zaxthor spoke. "What are your terms?" What followed were days of intense negotiations. The humans, mindful of the lessons of their own history, were determined not to simply replace one tyranny with another. Instead, they proposed a radical restructuring of galactic society. The Galactic Empire would be dissolved, replaced by a galactic federation of independent worlds. Each species would have the right to self-determination, with safeguards in place to protect the rights of minority populations on multi-species worlds. Earth, as the architect of this new order, would play a key role in the transition. Human teleportation technology would be shared, but under strict controls to prevent its weaponization. A new galactic peacekeeping force would be established, with representatives from all member species, to maintain order and mediate disputes. As news of the negotiations spread, the galaxy held its breath. Species that had known nothing but imperial rule for countless generations grappled with the concept of freedom. There was excitement, yes, but also fear of the unknown. It was in this climate of uncertainty that Dr. Samantha Wells found herself addressing the newly formed Galactic Assembly, a vast gathering of representatives from every corner of the known universe. "I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a partner in a grand endeavor," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. Humanity's journey to the stars was born of curiosity, of an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and exploration. It is in that spirit that we extend our hand to all species across the galaxy. She paused, her eyes scanning the diverse array of beings before her. "The teleportation technology that allowed us to challenge the Empire is just the beginning. We invite you all to join us in pushing the boundaries of science and discovery. Together, we can unlock the secrets of the universe, cure diseases that have plagued our peoples for eons, and explore realms beyond our wildest imaginations." As she spoke, holographic displays came to life around the chamber, showcasing the potential applications of human technology, merged with the diverse knowledge of other species. Medical breakthroughs, environmental restoration techniques, and glimpses of theoretical physics that hinted at dimensions yet unexplored. But technology alone is not enough, Dr. Wells continued. The true strength of humanity, the force that allowed us to stand against an empire that spanned the stars, is our diversity, our adaptability, and our unbreakable spirit. These are traits we share with many of you. It is my hope that in the coming years, we will learn from each other, grow together, and build a galaxy where every individual, regardless of species, has the opportunity to reach their full potential. The response was overwhelming. Species that had been bitter enemies under imperial rule found common ground in their hopes for the future. Trade agreements were forged, cultural exchanges planned, and joint scientific ventures proposed. In the years that followed, the galaxy experienced a renaissance of art, culture, and scientific advancement. The human concept of democracy, adapted to suit the needs of a multi-species civilization, spread across the stars. It wasn't always smooth. Old hatreds and prejudices didn't disappear overnight, but the overall trajectory was one of progress and cooperation. Earth, once a backwater planet on the fringes of the galaxy, became a hub of interstellar activity. The sight of alien species walking the streets of New York, Tokyo, or Nairobi became commonplace. Human innovations, combined with the ancient wisdom of other civilizations, led to breakthroughs that transformed life across the galaxy. And yet, humanity never forgot the lessons of its brief but pivotal war against the Empire. The teleportation fleet, now expanded and crewed by representatives from dozens of species, remained vigilant. It stood as a deterrent against any who might seek to establish a new tyranny, and as a rapid response force for natural disasters and humanitarian crises. In the Hall of Remembrance in Geneva, where the pivotal decisions of the war had been made, a simple plaque summed up the spirit of this new era. To the stars we looked for our future. In ourselves we found the strength to seize it. Together we build a galaxy of hope. As Dr. Samantha Wells, now a respected elder stateswoman, gazed up at the star-filled sky from the porch of her mountain home, she reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this point. The fear and desperation of those early days under imperial rule seemed like a distant memory. Yet she knew that the story was far from over. Out there in the vast expanse of the cosmos, new challenges and adventures awaited. Humanity and its new allies stood ready to face whatever the universe had in store. For in the end, that was the true legacy of Earth's stand against the Galactic Empire, not just the defeat of a tyrant, but the dawning of a new age of exploration, cooperation, and boundless possibility. The Galactic Empire had laughed at Earth, dismissing humans as primitive and weak. In doing so, they had overlooked the most fundamental truth about humanity. Given a challenge, humans don't just rise to meet it. They soar beyond it, redefining what's possible and dragging the rest of the universe along with them into a brighter future. And as the stars twinkled overhead, promising new worlds and new civilizations yet to be discovered, one thing was certain: humanity's greatest adventures were still to come.